Macabre Cast.
The devil's on the loose and he's dancing with the mummy.
Doc Mark and Chorus, the little mummy, here to bring you another episode of Macabre Cast, where we'll be dropping R's where they belong and adding them where they don't. So, Karis, I'm hearing a lot about this French-Canadian movie that's out called Red Rooms. A lot of good positive feedback about this, and I'm just trying to track down how I can see it. I don't know where it's streaming, and don't confuse it. On Tubi, there is Red Room, totally different movie. This is from 2024.
Red Rooms, French-Canadian. I'm not familiar with this one. Sounds like there's a lot of reading, though. Subtitles?
A lot of times these foreign horror movies are better than what we've got going on over here. Now, I guess this is about this girl that's obsessed with this serial killer who's now on trial. And she becomes, she also resembles, I guess, his last victim, which there's a missing videotape of this 13-year-old girl that he killed. That's the one that she resembles, and she becomes obsessed with finding this tape, meets somebody else at the courtroom who's also fascinated with true crime, and just a bizarre movie, and I'm hearing lots of positive stuff about it, so now I'm trying to track it down to see it. Shudder has a documentary out right now about one of my all-time favorite splatter film Italian directors, Dario Argento. It's called Panico. Definitely want to check that out. I guess there's a lot of behind-the-scenes movies and interviews never seen before. It looks really good. And Terrifier 3 has officially begun filming. That's the big one in 2024 I'm waiting to see. I think we're looking at, what did we say before? Was it Christmas or October? It's so far off, it makes me sad.
Let's talk. Won't you tell me what is wrong? Yeah, let's talk.
Mark and Karis, Horror Chat Matt here, and I'm really excited about the new news coming out of Central Florida in the last couple of days pertaining to Universal Studios' new theme park, Epic Universe, which is due to open sometime in 2025. As I said, it's a brand new park that they built from scratch, and it'll feature several of their properties with different lands dedicated to those properties, such as How to Train Your Dragon, Super Mario Land, another Wizarding World of Harry Potter. If you've ever been to the regular Universal Studios Harry Potter world, it is impressive theming. You really feel like you're walking through those movies. More importantly to us horror fans out there, and I think you'll be pretty pumped, as I know the classic Universal monsters are a favorite of yours, just as like they are for me. They will have a land called Dark Universe, which is themed to the classic Universal monsters. And it's described as a shadowy landscape where monsters roam in a world of myth and mystery. So far, 2 rides have been announced. The first one is called Monsters Unchained, Frankenstein's Experiment. And it is a dark ride, similar in the vein, I'm sure, to Disney's Haunted Mansion, where you get to sit down, relax, and take in the sights and sounds. And then second ride, probably not where you're going to be sitting down and relaxing. It's described as a spinning roller coaster, and it's called Curse of the Werewolf. There will also be themed restaurants and much more to be announced. If this park is half as good as what they've done with the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, this is going to be unbelievable experience for horror fans. It'll be like walking onto the sets of those old Universal Monster pictures, and I, for one, can't wait. We will probably wait until 2026 just to give the initial rush of people flocking to the new park a chance to thin out a little bit. But I'm really hoping they have some of the monsters walking around for photo ops and stuff like that. I'm pretty pumped and excited about this, and I'm curious what your thoughts are, Dark Mark. As always, keep up the great work, and I can't wait for next week's episode.
just hearing about this excites me. And, it's probably going to be so more amazing than we can even imagine. Unfortunately, we take like a tropical vacation every year. It's very expensive. This is just something I really want to do. I guess I look at it when I retire and hopefully can take more vacations. This is something I can definitely visit. It's got to be on the bucket list. That's for sure. The last time I was in Universal's park in Florida was 1991. So I can imagine how much that place has changed. And they just had a character or two kind of walking around like a Frankenstein, something else, and I was in my glory. I can't even imagine this. This just sounds absolutely crazy good. And as far as the rides, I don't go on anything that spins, not since I was 12. That's when I first lost my cookies going on the Turkish twist, which used to go on over and over and over again. I hit 12 and that was over. Now that Frankenstein ride, that sounds like the Haunted Mansion ride where you just kick back and, you're kind of moving through that universe. That's the ride for me. I know my family would disagree, but any theme park where I can immerse myself into the world of Universal classic monsters is, as far as I'm concerned, better than Aruba. I'm sorry, I said it. Better than Aruba. I think I would rather do that. I could go to that park every day and still have a good time.
Let me get this straight. You'd rather walk around with a bunch of people dressed up like Universal monsters than be on a beach sipping on a drink? Maybe you are an Arubian worshiper.
Listen, Karis, Grim Kim is on the line, and this week with Grim Facts, she's got her own little tale of terror to spin.
Grim Facts. Tonight, Tales from the Hood with Grim Kim. Okay, I've had creepy things happen to me 2 nights in a row. I'm going to share it with you on Macabre Cast. Forgive me for not writing it out as eloquently as Larry and Matt do almost weekly, and I appreciate that a lot. I'm just whipping it off the cuff because my nervous system is still jazzed up from what happened tonight. I'm going to start with last night. Walking my dog, it's after dark. We have this loop where we go behind this big Catholic chapel that's along the beach where I live. They only use it in season, so it has a huge parking lot which abuts to the marshland up behind it. We do a whole loop. So we're doing our loop. There's all sorts of things to sniff in the way of bunnies and wildlife. Well, here comes my brownie. She's a little lab hound mix, maybe some beagle. She does the pointer thing. Her haunch is up. She's frenzied. She's like sniffing back, forth, back, forth. Now I'm freaked out because we have to walk through this shadowed part behind the chapel. And it's like the zone. So like we enter the veil. She's acting weird. Now I'm getting freaked out. So I'm like, let's make this bend and head up towards the other end, loop around. And now she stops and she barks. One loud bark. She never barks. This dog never barks. Now I'm completely freaked out. I'm like, let's go. Okay, here we go. I'm sending Mark the picture of the chapel. Don't tell me the priest from Silver Bullet wasn't skulking around in the back there. There's a werewolf that lives behind there, and now I have to find a new night path for the dog. I'm convinced. And I think about it all the time because, that's how our brains work. But that just convinced it for me. I'm like, okay. All right. Tonight's story makes that one seem tame, and you know what? I think I'd maybe rather have run across the path of a werewolf than what happened tonight, which is I take the dog up the other end instead of the boulevard I live on, right across the street from the beach, because I'm going to mix it up, and I'm not going to do my church loop unless it's daytime anymore. So she's sniffing around this big field that is right before where the marshland goes, right up to where the sidewalk is, kind of, this part of the marsh. So a car pulls over at the sidewalk. The dog's sniffing, sniffing, sniffing. This car is sitting there, brights on, so I can't even see, facing us, our side of the sidewalk. And Grim Kim makes a decision when Brownie's done sniffing this part. We're not going to continue out of the field onto and up on the sidewalk past this car. So we cross the street right there and loop back. Mind you, there's nothing but pretty much unoccupied seasonal residences right there where I am. So I cross with Brownie. No sooner do I cross and double back, the van leaves, and it was making this weird whirring noise with the motor, so it takes off. It's like, okay, who knows? I don't really think too much about it, except I got a weird feeling, and I decided not to walk past the van. Now the van leaves immediately. Me and Brownie are walking towards the house. I'm probably about an 1/8 mile from the house. Not a minute later, here comes the van up towards us, driving towards us now. And I know because of the whirring motor noise. And, I wasn't even that... After they pulled off the first time, and I noticed that it wasn't even just a car, it was a minivan, I'm like, yeah, okay, that's creepy. Now here this van comes, they must have, went a couple yards, 100 yards up and banged a Yui. Now they're coming back towards me, and I'm like, totally creeped out. I go home. I call the police just to report it. They're like, well, next time, just try to do it then. I'm like, I'm telling you, the lights were dim. I couldn't see a plate. You know what I mean? The guy was long gone. I understand what they're saying, which is why I was calling right then. And then for the trifecta, the Saturday evening, me and my poor 12-year-old dog get attacked by this unleashed Doberman mix over on one of the side streets near me. I have a bad back. The guy is kind of like whistling nonchalantly for the dog to come over that. He's like, my poor 12-year-old got bit on the ear. She's fear reactive as it is. The other dog didn't back off until Mama Bear Grim Kim got up like a grizzly bear. I was screaming at the top of my lungs for that dog to, back off. And now I'm like yelling at the guy. I have a bad back. Thanks a lot. And he's trying to saunter around because he doesn't want me to see where he lives. And I'm just like, can we have the daylight back again? I'm so done. Real life is so much scarier than the movies or these stories, which is why I love my macabre. And that's it. I'm out and done for tonight, for sure. I'll talk more about what I've heard the last couple episodes. I have some things to say. I don't have the energy tonight. I wish you all fair winds and following tides. Good night.
I'm proud of Grim Kim, and not because of the great spooky real life story she told, or how she defended Brownie, but she didn't use one naughty word, not one.
Yes, we love real life spooky stories here at Macabre Theater. Great tale, Grim. And I love when they're accompanied with pictures. And I saw that werewolf in the picture. Did anyone else see that? Kind of looked like Cheney, sort of. But as always, great Grim Facts with Grim Kim.
Deep Death Dive.
That's right. It's time once again, and like it or not, for Deep Death Dive. And this week, Jaws 3? Is it really just Revenge of the Creature? And I think you'll see what I mean once we deep death dive into the plot behind Jaws 3. Now, to anyone that knows me, it's no secret that I am no fan of Jaws 3. This was directed by the guy who basically built the shot, or was an assistant. He was a creative consultant, or he had something to do with the design, at least definitely of in Jaws 2, and he directed this. This movie, talk about lack of feeling like a Jaws movie. I mean, something just doesn't seem right with this movie. The first two movies, and you can say what you want about the second movie, felt like they were a pair. Jaws 2 definitely had that look and feel of the first film. And I know I'm not here to argue. We all know that the first was better. But Jaws 3 was really way out in left field. More so than looking completely out of place from the other two films, it completely lifted its plot from Revenge of the Creature, the sequel to Creature from the Black Lagoon, and I'll go on to explain why. And if you have to watch this movie in 2D, it just looks terrible. The shark looks terrible. It's just not a very good movie. My wife, on the other hand, really likes this movie, but it's probably because of Dennis Quaid. A general synopsis to Revenge of the Creature: they basically go back to the Amazon. They capture the creature, and then they bring it back into captivity at SeaWorld. Sound familiar? Which during reviving the creature, he awakens, he runs amok, and just destroys anything and anyone that gets in his way. Well, Jaws 3, there's a shark in the area around SeaWorld. They capture it. It's the first great white in captivity. While they trying to revive it or nurse it back to health, it attacks and gets crazy. Of course, it changes a little bit there. That's really the red herring of the story. And if you've never seen Jaws 3 and you don't want it spoiled for you, then you should probably stop listening. Although, I mean, this movie came out 40 years ago. Anyway, that whole, up to this point, it's a red herring in Jaws 3, and it's just a baby of the mother shark that's now in the park and wreaks havoc, which is almost stealing from itself from Jaws 1 when they catch the tiger shark and it's not the shark and the real shark's out there. And need I say more? Between a choice of the two films, I will watch Revenge of the Creature all day long over Jaws 3. And I love Jaws, just not Jaws 3. That all being said, I always thought that Spielberg was a big fan of the original Creature from the Black Lagoon, because there are a lot of shots in the original Creature from the Black Lagoon that are mimicked in Jaws, starting with the from below the surface shot of the girl swimming. And there were other shots in the film, a winch that's bending from Hooper's Cage. It's very similar to the winch that's bending when they're trying to raise the net in Creature. Check it out, pay attention, think Jaws next time you see the original Creature from the Black Lagoon, and think Jaws 3, if you have to, about Revenge of the Creature.
Deep, depth, dive.
You know what it means when we hear that putrid theme. Yeah, it's time for
Horrible Mention.
This week's Horrible Mention is 1981's Great White, a.k.a. The Last Shark. Now, this is a blatant Jaws ripoff in every sense of the word, and Spielberg actually sued and had this removed from theaters when it was under the title Great White. I, being very young and not able to get enough shark movies under my belt, because there were none back then other than Jaws, managed to see this twice in theaters before it was yanked. And mind you, I didn't see it twice because it's a great film. It's an awful film. It's absolutely terrible. And Vic Morrow was in this before his death in Twilight Zone, the movie. He really must have been hard up or lowered himself, because it's really bad. Despite all this shade I'm throwing, I do actually own a copy of this film, and it's always fun for a laugh because sometimes it's just fun to like really bad. So if you're in the movie to see horrendous acting, a shark that looks like a balloon that they blew up. Of course, there is a lot of real shark footage in this film. I don't know whose movie they stole it from to put it in there. But every once in a blue moon, I do put this on for a good laugh. Great White, a.k.a. The Last Shark.
Until next time, stay on the road, keep clear of the moors, and beware the moon. But most of all, be good to yourself. This is Dark Mark, signing off.
This is a Macabre Theater production.